way of testing, okay, that you really have to check to make sure that your classifier has good properties. Okay. So that was for the theoretical part. So we managed to find a good way. But then what is a good way? Actually, remember we had 200 questions. So from these 200 questions, we had to find only a set of 20 questions, okay, that could help us screening the consumers. So remember what we did is that out of the 200 questions, we made a selection of 20 questions. And from these 20 questions, we tried to build a classifier that could help us screening people that were close to the center of gravity. Okay? So that's the machine who is doing that. Can I find a classifier that targets the center of my clusters? Yes, I can. And now I'm going to show you that's more sensory or consumer. I'm going to build a classifier with common sense. So forget about statistics. Now I'm going to do more, okay, how to collect data. So, first strategy is kind of a good strategy. 2 minutes. Okay. With common sense. So with common sense, that's another experiment. Just, I want to show you what we did. We did what we call a self-evaluation questionnaire based on the description of the center of gravity of each cluster. It means that, remember, we had 4 groups, okay? So we said, okay, what is the description of the first group? What is the description of the second group, third group, and so on? And then we asked people, okay, please read the description of each one of the group, okay? And now you're going to try to assess yourself in one of this group. So example 1, you have to put percentage here, and in terms of distance, how do you feel you're close to? Do you think you're close to profile 1, second profile, third profile, fourth profile? Okay, 100% in the second profile. That means that it's totally me. The second profile fits perfectly well, okay? Example 2, none of these profiles fits. So that means that I'm not going to select that person here. Example 3, 70% to the profile 2, okay, and 15% to 1 and 3. So that means that I might have some doubt, okay? So I have to be careful if I want to select this person, and then I have to check, okay, if I really want to select this person. What I want to tell you is that if you have a description of your clusters, of your consumers, you might screen your consumers, the new consumers, based on that kind of description, okay, based on that kind of technique. And this is what we did, okay, and it worked also really well. So that means that out of the 800 consumers, but remember, the 8 first 100 consumers, they couldn't test the product because it was too expensive. We didn't have any consumer insight on the usage. We built a group of persons in terms of usage. And then, second step, we selected, okay, particular consumers according to their usage, and we tried to make them assess 30 products, okay? So, if one of your questions is, how can we assess 30 products, I will answer to that question. And then once we do that, okay, we can link, okay, usage and hedonic data. Okay, but remember, the link between usage and hedonic is very tight. Our hypothesis was that we really had to select carefully the new consumers. Okay, I think that's the end. Classification with constraints seems to be promising. Still, there's a lot of work to be done to run that automatically. But screening consumers with the profile matching is turned out to be very practical and it works. So thank you for your attention and see you tomorrow for another story. And the first question goes for
ก็เขาเรียกคอนเซนเตอร์ของกลุ่มก็จะกลุ่มหนาแน่นกระจุกอยู่เป็นช่วงนี้ที่มันยาก
Just one question. When you use a classifier, I think this concept is very good and it's going to reduce the cost of doing survey and censoring stuff using the consumer. It's sort of kind of focus front end.
เขาใช้คัสเตอร์แลนด์สีแยกเป็น4กลุ่มละตอนแรกที่มันเป็นอย่างนี้ใช่ไหมเป็นอย่างเงี้ยแล้วเป็นกลุ่ม1กลุ่ม2กลุ่ม3กลุ่ม4
So my question is,
แล้วเขาก็
what kind of criteria
เลือกกลุ่มที่อยู่ใกล้เซ็นเตอร์มากที่สุด
Actually,
What kind of variable?
yeah. So remember, we had that
แล้วก็
first
เอาข้อมูลที่
big
ได้
study.
ที่ มันเป็น hidden
Okay?
skill
And out of that study,
You mean research
By
or
machine
previous
learning.
study?
previous study, so this is the first one
ที่
that
บ
I
อกว่า
showed
ให้
you.
มัน
So
ให้มันอะไร
this
สุ่ม
one
เลือกอะ
was the
มัน
real
ไม่สุ่มนะ
real
มัน
first
แบบว่า
study.
เอากลุ่
So
ม
we
ที่ตร
had
ง
this
กลาง
one,
อ่ะ
but on this one we didn't get any hidden data.
It's not the same product categories that you are using.
Same category, because we're talking about usage, so it has to be the same category. Same category, but no hedonic data.
But how could we get that if we have new product and no previous data before? What kind of classifier that you use?
So if you have no consumer
มัน
insight,
ให้คอมเรียน
there's no question about
แปลว่า
selecting
ต้องใส่
consumers.
ข้อมูลที่
You
ถูก
need
ต้อง
to
นะ
have some consumers insight. Okay? So if
ผล
you
การ
don't
ตัดสิน
have
ใจมันที่อาจารย์เห็น
a
การ
priori groups, then it doesn't
ก็เลือกได้ใช่ไหมที่บอกว่ายิน
Can
เลือก
you create like a testing or conduct some kind of a smaller test to gain the classifier to
probability
get
อ่ะ
the risk?
probability
Yeah, that's the
ที่
idea.
ทำ
You have to do that in a
ที่
two-step way. Okay? Pre-test means that you get inside of the consumers. Once you have inside of the consumers, and once you have a description of your consumers in
แต่
terms
ต้อง
of
กรอกข้อมูล
usage,
ที่ถูกต้อง
then you use the classifier, okay, to select new consumers for them to test the products. Okay? But the first step is getting inside of the consumers, know how they work, okay, according to that category, and then from the category you select the product, and then you try to make usage and link it and hidden data.
That's why it's more important to get qualitative rather than the description.
Yeah, otherwise you don't, if you don't have insight on your consumers, then you don't have that notion of selecting consumers.
จากคุณภาพเป็นคุณภาพ
Okay, I have a question.
I would have been disappointed
Yeah,
if you
it's
had no
not
question.
disappointing you.
Before you ask question, could you please introduce yourself because many people want to
Yeah,
know
yeah,
who you are. When you ask any question.
Actually, it's like have a presentation, but we don't know you.
Alright, good afternoon. My name is Juanita. I'm a sensory manager working for Thai Union. I have a question. Really, this machine learning currently capture my interest, and I'm probably interested to talk a lot more with you later on.
Yeah.
Wondering about just very basic questions. You said you generate 200 questions for the usage and attitude,
Yeah.
right? So I'm wondering how did you generate that sort of questions that I probably want to learn more about that. And later on you narrow down to 20 questions as a classifier. But now you recommend that the method should be used as the common sense for the self assessment.
What?
The common sense for the
Oh,
first one, the self
what
assessment.
I want to two message. First one, if you want to go for a very quantitative strategy, then you should do the classifier and the machine learning thing. But there's also some kind of quantitative strategies that works well. And what I want to say is that okay, maybe you don't know how to use the classifier, but common sense works really well. And if you do the profile matching, then that's another way to select your consumers, and it works kind of well. So what I want to say is that if you do the profile matching, you don't control really the quality of the data. You don't control the quality of the data in terms of the probability for each one of the consumers, but it works. If you do with the machine learning things, okay, you can really control the quality of your data because according to the probability of the consumers, you can select or not. Okay, but if you, so that's one point. But it's in terms of commitment, in terms of money you want to put into that classifier, it will cost you a lot of money.
Okay.
Okay, but really, if I had to recommend something, I would recommend the common sense strategy because common sense is good. Even though I like statistics and I want to sell my statistics things, I think that profile matching was really a promising method because you have the profiles, and then from the profiles, okay, you can really select your consumers. So actually, just to give you an example, if you, but to get 80 consumers, we only had to screen from 200 consumers. So the penetration rate, 80 over 200 is quite high.
Alright.
Yeah.
So very quick and easy now. The previous study you done with 785 people.
Yeah.
And for the second experiment, you said you recruit X number, 80,
80.
right, to do the sensory evaluation of 30 products.
Yeah.
But that 80 is partial part recruited from 785
No.
or different set,
Independent.
independent.
Independent. Otherwise, Otherwise, I don't screen. I just select the people. I just call them back. No. The AT is from another country, is from whatever you want. Actually, the most important is that you need the original criteria, how to select. And once you select, then you can go everywhere.
Another question
Yeah.
is, as per your experience, so you've done with 2 different countries, any cultural differences?
Yeah.
So,
So, of course, you have to think about that. There are some cultural differences, okay? But actually, for this, we wanted some kind of 20 general questions, okay? If you want to focus on one culture and to be more specific in terms of questions, then we can do that. But we wanted to have some kind of global understanding about the category, but it was 2 very close countries, so yeah.
any chance that you're going to split the data into 2 different sets into the
We did,
different
of
countries?
course, yeah.
Alright,
To
and
get
this
to
is
get to
different.
get more specific questions, okay? But then, if you have 2 countries and you have a more general, I would say, questionnaires, then you can expect that these more general questionnaires can be used to classify some other people. But if you choose one country in particular, then if you build a classifier, your classifier is going to work only for that
Only that
country.
country.
Yeah, so it's some kind of trade-off of how you want to build your classifier. Do you want some kind of general or do you want some kind of very specific? It's up to you.
Alright. Thank you very much.
Can you share with us about your
คือ
challenge
การที่จะเอา
when you make up your classifier? What is the most
ต้องเลือก
challenge
คน
Oh,
ต้องเลือก
when you're trying to develop the
the classifier?
classifier?
Oh, actually, when we say close to the center of gravity,
Yeah.
okay, that's the biggest challenge. It's because we don't know what close means. So, in terms of distance, yeah. So actually, what we did is that here, here, 2, 30, 40, 50, and 60. These numbers, okay, is the distance between the center of gravity. So the main challenge is to try to understand the notion of distance and to try to understand what close means. Okay, because when we say, okay, they have to be close to the center of gravity, the notion of proximity is not really defined. It's defined with the multiple correspondence analysis, but what is close, what is not close, it's hard to say. So the most difficult challenge is really trying to understand that notion of distance. And remember, the other challenge is that this distance was calculated based on the 200 questions. And then I'm going to use a classifier based on 20 questions. So that means that even though I understand the distance with 200 questions, if I reduce the number of questions to 20, then the notion of distance is going to be different. So the most difficult challenge is that you have to deal with 2 distances, okay? And with one already you're struggling because you don't know what close means, and then with 2 is more and more complicated. So that's the main challenge.
Thank you.
So that's why I would recommend the profile matching thing.
Thank you. Introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Sebastian. And if you have more questions and want to listen to more presentation tomorrow, Associate Professor Sebastian and Dr. Vyasana will give more presentation in the afternoon at room 216 217 at 20.
น่าสนใจนะ
เรื่องอะไรต้องดูก่อน
So we would like to
เคมี
thank
ก็ล่ะ
Associate
Me.
Professor